Company. I'm a born Caymanian, and I'm very proud to say that I'm producing an exceptional quality rum that's completely handmade, start to finish, distilled, bottled, and blended right here in Grand Cayman for Tortuga Rum Company.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. We're Cayman 27, Cayman Informed.
Good evening and welcome to Cayman Now. I'm your host, Barry Qualpe, and it is International Men's Day, and the Family Resource Center is represented tonight to tell us about a special event they're putting together, all about that. Anne-Marie Diaz, she is the program facilitator. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Now, one thing about this is you have a movie. Is it locally made?
Absolutely. Locally made, locally produced film called Men's Voice.
Wow.
It's featuring local people as well, young boys and men in our community discussing the issues, the challenges that they face and potential solutions to those problems.
So the purpose of the International Men's Day, is that more to set up for role models, or what are we really trying to do for that?
Well, each year they do come out with a different theme. This theme for this year, for 2018, is positive male role models. So we have been focusing on that. On our Facebook page, you can go on, you can nominate a positive male role model in your life, whether it's a coach, your own father, you know,
cool.
that sort of thing. And we also are trying to get nominations for positive youth agencies. There's initiatives and agencies and programs that don't get enough attention that do focus and support our young men in the community.
Well, and I do know that many times we've talked about women issues on the various talk shows that we do here. Yeah. And I have had men approach me and go, well, Barry, you know, men have issues too.
Absolutely.
So I guess this is why this has come about. Absolutely.
And I think it was important. It still is important that we focus on women's issues. But definitely men's voices need to be heard too. I think when we don't hear from a certain point of view in our community, then we really, you know, neglect to focus on problems that are not just affecting men or women, they're affecting all of us. I watched a video recently, and there was actually a group of men discussing women's issues, and even talked about how women, you know, maybe are fearful traveling alone at night, and that's not their problem.
And you see, that's the whole thing that men need to understand, but I think women need to understand a lot too. Mm-hmm. We have a lot to discuss. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Is back. Sign up for the Sports Pack today and fuel your passion for football. Sports is life, only on Flow.
Caymanian owned and operated since 1967. Paramount Carpets is a full-service operation beginning with material selection to the installation of finished products, as well as providing maintenance, service, and takes great pride in the quality of their work, making every effort to exceed customer expectations. Contact us today at 345-949-5000 or visit us at 317 Industrial Park, North Sound Road. Paramount Carpets. We do a whole lot more than just cover your floor.
Champion House Restaurant, serving Cayman for over 30 years. Start your day off right with our breakfast, fruits, pastries, hot cereals, entree, and so much more. Stop by for lunch. Our buffet offers salads, soup, entrees, and desserts. Check out our website for details on our new dinner menu. And don't forget about catering. We can customize any menu to suit your needs. Champion House Restaurant, where the islanders dine.
It's that time of year again for the annual Cayman 27 Parade of Lights, brought to you by Bogle Insurance Brokers Limited. We're calling all boats to join us Saturday, December 1st at Cayman Bay as the water comes to life with this year's theme, Christmas Around the World. It's completely free to enter, and there's a chance to win $1,000 and 2 general admission tickets to Kaboo. Or enter just for fun. Private and commercial boats are welcome. For more information and to register your boat, click on cayman27.ky.
Welcome back to Cayman Now, everyone. And again, we have Anne-Marie Diaz. She is the program facilitator of the Family Resource Center. International Men's Day is coming up. And just generally speaking, this is to celebrate men, talk about men's issues. And this movie that you've had done, where can people see that?
It's going to be premiering, I should say, on International Men's Day, November 19th at 6 p.m. right here at Cayman Bay in our cinema. So I really do encourage not just men and boys to come out and see this film, but women, you know, everyone to come and see it. Really, like I was saying, it's not, men's issues aren't their own, they're everyone's problems. So we need to share and take a look at them and see what we can do.
And Marie, I think one of the things that really hurts my soul is that we have gotten more, if you will, isolated as a community. We don't talk to each other as much. We might meet each other in passing, but we don't sit there and go, how are you today?
Yeah.
And just go, fine. Then the conversation ends and you move on because everybody's so blessedly busy. Yeah. And, you know, we recently lost a colleague to suicide. And when some of us got together and talked, for the very first time, we actually talked about, how do you feel? One even said, I've had these types of thoughts, you know, and I think we don't take the time enough to watch out for each other and be each other's keeper, which is a real sad tale because Caymanians traditionally were each other's keeper.
Exactly, that Cayman kindness, I mean, that's so important. And it's important that we preserve our values, and if caring about one another is one of our values and it's something that we need to preserve. I agree with you. Communication is key. When we fail to open up to one another, we fail to ask one another how we're doing.
Or you're embarrassed to share your problems.
Yeah, and that's the thing, you mentioned busyness. You know, busyness really is a disease of the 21st century. But if we can learn to balance, you know, our work and our life and our priorities and value one another as human beings, you know, it'll be a better place. It'll be easier for each one of us as individuals. You know? So
for the men themselves, what kind of topics do they only want to share with other men versus the rest of the community?
To be honest, I think, unfortunately, I think society has maybe set a tone that it's not okay for them to even talk to one another about certain things. The expression of their emotions is often dumbed down. You know, we say destructive things like man up, and that immediately shuts them up. I think, you know, there's a lot of issues that are discussed in this film, especially things like mental health issues, not being able or not feeling confident, not feeling open from other people to go and access mental health or other support services, to talk about things, or even being allowed to talk to a friend, to a spouse, to even close relationships. That's a societal issue, I would say. And I think that's kind of the root cause of a lot of issues that we're seeing. You know, the prison is overflowing with people. There's an absence of men in the house. And sometimes when they are there, you know, how present are they? Of course, I'm speaking generally. There's some amazing positive male role models out there, and fathers. But yeah, there's an absolute knock-on effect. And when you can't talk about your emotions, you end up going in for sometimes negative coping mechanisms and strategies, you know, going for drugs, going for alcohol, going, you know, young men are going into gangs because really they just want to belong. And they belong, you know, they have open arms for them there.
Well, there's a lot of pressure on being a man.
Absolutely.
And I think from the time you're a young boy, certain things, you either hear it, children listen. So it's they hear people talking about what is the boy's role, the man's role. And as I shared with you before we came in here tonight, you know, I recently heard a male advocate say, well, men in many countries over the globe are the only human beings that are raised to die for their country. and they're raised to die for the women and children of that country. That's just an extreme example of the pressures that we put on the males of our society. And that's a lot of pressure. And you're going to have individual males who are going to say, yeah, so I don't want that hat to hang on me. No way. You know, I'm not made that way. That's not who I am. There are men who are made to be warriors. There are. Absolutely. And that's easy to recognize. And that's not a negative thing. Yeah. You can be a warrior but still be a good person.
Yeah. And I just want to point out a very poignant thing is the fact that we're both women talking about men's issues. You know, there's been people that have seen me wearing the International Men's Day shirt and saying, oh, why do men have a day? You know, and they're usually
gotten flack for it.
Yeah, and they're usually female. And I mean, the thing is, we need to talk about it. You know, men's issues aren't just for them. We all need to pitch in and hear what they have to say.
So you said man up will shut down a conversation. Why is that?
I know some people can look at it and take the positivity out of it. But for me, when I hear man up, that immediately says, shut up. You don't need to talk. I don't need to hear what you have to say. I don't need to hear, you know, that you're sad or you're angry or all the, you know, in terms of emotion being an iceberg, there's so much under the surface, right? So if we see an expression of anger, there's often so much underneath that. There's guilt, there's shame, so we shut down the tip of the iceberg. We're not even getting to what's under the surface level. And that's really unfortunate, because that person learns to not communicate about their feelings, and they're not going to be heard.
So working in the Family Resource Center, obviously you have seen people express the difficulties they are having. And as a male perspective, I can't imagine trying to grow up, being tempted to run drugs for someone, being tempted to race cars, the things that are thrown at our youth here.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How do they find their way through without some really good role models?
Exactly, and I think that's...
And they don't have to be the parents. A lot of the times, unfortunately, it's not the parents.
No, and that's the thing. As adults, you know, not just parents, but as adults, we need to model what's appropriate, what's the appropriate behavior. We need to grow our own emotional literacy and be able to speak and to say, you know, mommy, or maybe if I'm not mom, I'm just a lady, you know, this is how I'm feeling, and that's okay. I think when children hear that, then they'll understand, oh, so I can feel. You know, it is a human thing, so I don't see why we can't talk about it.
Absolutely. When we come back, I want to talk about some of the workshops that they hold at the Family Resource Center that help you learn these types of skills that we're talking about tonight. We'll be right back.
A timely response. That matters. Owning your own home, that matters. Supporting our community, that matters. When your child smiles, that matters. Good encounters, great experiences. It matters at Cayman National.
Make the most of your morning at Burger King with Burger King's unbeatable breakfast special. 2 croissants for just $4. Take 2 bacon, egg, and cheese croissants, 2 sausage, egg, and cheese, or mix and match. Add a refreshing OJ or delicious hash browns, plus tea or coffee for a true breakfast of champions. 2 croissants for just $4, available until 10:30 weekdays and 11 a.m. on weekends. Only at Burger King, 7 Mile Beach, Waterfront, Walkers Road, Town Center Plaza, and now Red Bay.
Eclipse Hair Design and Day Spa. Discover the difference.
Is back. Sign up for the Sports Pack today and fuel your passion for football. Sports is life, only on Flow.
Welcome back, everyone. Once again, from the Family Resource Center, we have Anne-Marie Diaz. And Anne-Marie, you know, when we talk a lot about the resources, there's a lot of things that we as adults have to do. We realize, well, maybe I keep thinking negatively about a certain situation, so I need to find another way to retrain the way I think about certain issues. That could be a mental health counselor, or that could be a workshop dealing with a specific issue only. Tell us about some of the things the Family Resource Center can do specifically for men and boys.
Absolutely. Well, Family Resource Center, we're actually part of 3 agencies that fall under Department of Counseling Services. So we have the Family Resource Center, the Counseling Center, and the Caribbean Rehabilitation Center. And they're very unique in what they do offer. Obviously, the Counseling Center focuses on more individualized as well as group therapies, counseling. In the rehab center, we also offer more of an inpatient service for those that are attempting to get over drug and alcohol addiction. And in terms of the Family Resource Center, we do focus very much on parenting skills, communication skills. There's programs for young boys all the way up to you know, adults.
So can we truly say to the males, no matter what age they are, that may be watching tonight, that they are not alone?
Absolutely. I think when we feel isolated, we often dig an even bigger hole and get even more isolated and shut ourselves off from communicating. We think, you know, no one cares. But, you know, people do. Family Resource Center do, the Department of Counseling Center absolutely does, and that's why we have gotten together and made this film. We do want our boys and our men's voices to be heard. So definitely we want everyone to be coming, checking out the film.
Well, the film, once again, we need to mention is Men's Voice. It's a short documentary. It will be premiered on International Men's Day in Cayman Bay Cinema at 6 p.m. and that is on the 19th of November. And how much does it cost to enter?
It's absolutely free, and in fact, you might even win a prize for showing up.
Hey, that's pretty good.
Yeah, exactly.
But these, so these interviews were done locally, which I think is very powerful, because a lot of time we're dealing with videos made in other countries, and it just doesn't, you know, feel right.
Exactly. And actually, when I first brought the idea to my program coordinator, Ms. Charmaine Miller, I said to her, you know, I said, I'm finding, you know, documentaries from Australia and the UK and the US, but of course there's significant cultural differences. So I thought it was important that we heard from locals, you know, people that live here and that know the issues that are happening here.
And that has to involve getting them to say, yes, it's okay for you to show my image and so forth. That had to be a brave thing for them to do.
They were amazing, and I mean, I didn't even have to really like pull any teeth. I just said, you know, be as open, be as vulnerable as you can be. We get a bit personal, asking about their own childhood, them growing up, whether or not maybe their father spoke about things.
Wow.
So we get quite deep, and I think you're going to be really interested with what you learn.
And who's our filmmaker?
So Freddie Diaz has produced the film. He sent in the invoice and we're like, yes, let's get you. Happens to be my husband, but nothing about that.
That's a small island country.
Yeah, yeah, we all know one another. So really excited about that. But it's produced by the Family Resource Center.
That is fantastic. Yeah. Now, one of the issues that you mentioned very briefly are men's suicide rates. And years ago, excuse me, as I was training for nursing, they told us that men are more likely to be successful once they decide and commit. Because we know people will have sad thoughts, bad thoughts, and then deliberate thoughts on what method they might want to use. And so there's a progression, but it doesn't always progress along that line. It can be 1, and then you jump back to 2, and so on and so forth. Is that pretty much still the same?
Well, you know, there is the statistic based on World Health Organization that men are 3 times as likely to die by suicide than women are. And, you know, you mentioned them being maybe more decisive, but I think men also feel a greater sense of hopelessness when they get to that point where they're thinking about those things, because I think, you know, women, we're more allowed to talk about things as opposed to men. So I think there is this hopelessness that is reached quicker.
Now, some of the anger that you said you were experiencing wearing a T-shirt saying International Men's Day, how come they get a day and things like that. I mean, the men themselves, I think if they can talk about these issues, we all need to just talk about the issues. Now, I know there's things specific to women and specific to men, and I may be a bit naive to say just talk about the issues. But, you know, when women, you mentioned earlier, don't feel safe walking in the dark, do men feel that same way? Maybe they do, depending on their size. Not everybody was born with brawn and bluster. You know, maybe they have issues too. And until we find some common ground here, we're going to have this divide between male and female as far as actually finding understanding and therefore then being able to find solutions.
I think, you know, there are obvious differences that need our attention for men and women, but absolutely, I think when we start to recognize that there isn't this huge, you know, barrier between us, and you know, we then I think become more empathetic, and we're more likely to listen. And I think when, you know, men listen to women's issues, we're obviously more likely to vice versa, right? So it works. It's a two-way street. It's a win-win. So I definitely agree with you with that.
Well, so we got to listen to each other, guys. We'll be back for one more round. Stay with us.
A tropical storm watch has been upgraded to a
Hey, I've been tracking the storm, and it's looking really dangerous.
Yeah.
You're in a new place. You gotta prepare. No, put that down. You need canned goods, not canned
I get
soda
it.
and
yes,
water.
Sis,
You need plenty
water.
of water.
Here, water. Oh, God. Oh, sorry. I'm just trying to get ready for this.
Is it your first time?
Yes.
Do you need a hurricane buddy?
Please.
All right, come on. I prefer bigger bottles.
Kind of shame it took a hurricane for us to finally hang out.
Yeah, I know, right?
Hey, sis, kind of bad time.
Hey, good news. The hurricane warning's been lifted. I saw online the storm has changed direction.
Oh, so I guess you get to go back to your place now.
Where are you? That's not your apartment.
Please pick the flowers.
Bye, neighbor.
Sometimes having a middleman is not a bad thing, especially when it comes to insurance. Do you know that when it comes to cost, ease, speed, and peace of mind, insurance brokers ranked higher than when customers buy direct? So, for all your insurance needs, call Fidelity Insurance. We're the middleman you want. Call us today at 949-7822. Fidelity. We're good for you.
Welcome back, everyone. Once again, we're talking about men's issues. It is International Men's Day coming up on November 19th. And again, we're visiting with Anne-Marie Diaz from the Family Resource Center. And I just want to say that, you know, we always talk about the various problems affecting the males in our population. One that we really haven't spent a lot of time on is the father absenteeism from the home. Why do we think there seems to be a prevalence of that right now, locally?
Well, you know, that's a huge thing to unpack there. I think you know, it comes from a point that I think, you know, women also enable negative behaviors. I think we don't set an expectation for our men, what we expect from them as fathers, or maybe we feel, oh, you know, we're the mother, we got to put everything on our shoulders, and so we don't set that kind of expectation for the fathers in the house, and because of that, sometimes we enable the lack of effort from their point, if that were the case, of course. And I think it goes back to, again, societal issues. If we're not allowing our men and our boys to speak about things, if they're not feeling valued from the wider community, then maybe they're not going to feel valued inside the house either. Again, I think a lot of research needs to be done. You know, I'm speaking based on my opinions and my colleagues' opinions. But again, I think it's a very important issue that maybe we need to research further.
Well, there's certain churches here in Cayman that require, if a couple's going to get married, that they have a certain amount of counseling before, you know, they are going to book the wedding and all of that. I think that's wise to a certain degree. I don't know the content of the counseling, but again, it's almost like setting up that couple to realize, okay, we're going to make a commitment here.
Exactly, yeah.
How meaningful is that commitment to each partner in this, and how is that going to work going forward? What does that look like? What do you think it looks like versus what does he think it looks like? And so get some of those initial conversations that may have never been discussed for a lot of couples before they actually commit.
And you make a good point. And actually, we're talking about marriage. I mean, at that point, they're already being quite proactive. If they're thinking about marriage, they're already maybe ahead of the game before they've had children.
Right.
But, you know, there are unplanned pregnancies, a lot of them. People aren't accessing proper methods of birth control. And so, you know, if an unwanted pregnancy comes along, you know, there is this kind of impression that it's the woman's responsibility alone, which of course should never be the case. But again, I think women perpetuate that too. And I think we have to set a standard for men as well, and they set for themselves.
So it's a real quagmire because I have this example, and I don't know how fair it is, but recently I played, you know, I'm a musician as well, I played for a wedding. And they were visitors to the island, but we had known them on and off for many years. You know, they've supported our music. And I remember one of the speeches by the best man of the groom. The groom was known to us, the best man was not. And he said, you know, leading up to this groom wanted to be ready. This was a very special day to him. And I was just like, wow, his dad raised him right. Because already that individual was preparing to commit to this wife.
Exactly.
And he called up his best friend, the groom, called up his best friend and said, okay, I want to be in the best shape of my life for the wedding. We're running every morning at 5 a.m. And that kind of partnership and friendship in life is what we need. It's not always the church, the parents, or somebody else. You can do it yourself with your bestie.
Absolutely.
You know, and be there for each other.
Yeah, at some point, you know, we owe it to ourselves as individuals. We deserve to be the best versions of ourselves as we can for our own well-being. You know, so at some point we have to take on that sense of responsibility to be better, to better ourselves, and to not allow our past to define us. And you speak about the gentleman that was getting married. I mean, you know, in terms of our culture, we often separate our boys and men from the get-go, boys and girls, sorry. You know, our boys aren't allowed to play with dolls and shouldn't maybe be cleaning in the house, when actually we need to be raising our boys and our girls for adulthood.
Sir, mine had to learn to cook an egg and all that for themselves.
Exactly.
Both of them, girl and boy.
Exactly, and that's critical. So if we just say, oh no, well the boys, you don't do that, you know, that's always the girl's job, then that's what they're gonna grow up knowing. So we can't expect anything different when they're adults. So again, we have to nurture our boys and our girls, and when they're men, when they're women, empower them to be the best versions of themselves for themselves and for their individual families and for the community as a whole.
Well, and we do have some incredible male role models in this country.
Absolutely.
And so the fact that we have a Men's Day, I'm really happy about that. Perhaps someday we'll even have, you know, celebrate male role models, because if they are identified publicly, then that really helps people to maybe go up to them and say, you know, I just would like to talk to you about a certain matter. And maybe that particular role model wouldn't have the answer, but they'd be able to help find them someone to talk to. And that's how this community works. It's not who you know so much, but who you're brave enough to connect with.
That's very true. You know, I nominated Positive Male Role Model on the Facebook page myself. I know I'm a part of Family Resource Center, but I did it. And he's a godfather to my son. And I think, you know, when I was nominating him, I thought, you know, I haven't really told him this. You know, maybe he read between the lines that I thought of. I mean, I named him my son's godfather. But I listed why I was nominating him and the qualities that he upheld himself to be. And I think it's so important that we don't wait for things like International Men's Day. No, we need to talk about it all the time, you know. let's keep the momentum going.
I think so. So we've got to go, but I do want to remind them, Men's Voice is the documentary film. Get to Cayman Bay November 19th, free entry, possible prizes, and you'll get some more information on the Family Resource Center at frc@gov.ky. Good night, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Let Elite Marble and Granite bring the charm of Italy to your home. Made from only the best materials. Santa Margherita Quartz is handcrafted at a state-of-the-art facility located in Italy and then journeys across the ocean to Elite Marble and Granite, who is the exclusive distributor in the Caribbean. Elegant and resistant, Santa Margherita Quartz products offer a large choice of colors, textures, and exclusive finishes. Call 945-9028 or visit us online at elite.ky. Elite Marble and Granite, where perfection costs less.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. We're Cayman 27, Cayman Informed.